Hey there, Kingdom Dream Chasers. All right, so fun conversation with you today. Something I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but when it was first brought to my attention years ago, a coach that I was working with, suggesting I start a podcast. And I was like, no. Everything in me just kind of cried no. And the reason why it did, of course, this is hindsight looking back, but the reason why it did is because it was, something new, something hard, technology. I don't know how to do that. Oh my gosh. What will people think? What will I talk about? What will they say? All the things like went through my head in like a fast minute. And I was just like, no. But what someone ultimately said that started to turn and shift things for me. When someone just says that one thing and you go from feeling really closed about something to like, all right, well, maybe I'll consider it. So you ready to hear what it is? The one thing someone said that shifted really opened the door for me on doing a podcast was nobody's ever gotten talker's block. And I sat there and just laughed because of course, what they were saying is, people get writer's block. If you're going to write a book, you get writer's block, you get frustrated, the words just aren't coming. Well, whoever got talker's block, certainly not me, you know? So what that did is it gave me a new perspective and was like, Gail, you do like to talk and you do have things to share. And so, well, that's what a podcast can be all about is sharing the things that God's putting on your heart that you've either walked through, navigated, or are learning now that are helping your clients. And so the conversation today is around this game changing thing that I have done in my schedule. And I've been using it for a while now. And really it takes a little time sometimes for the fruit of something that you try to really show up. And I'm experiencing that fruit now, which makes me really excited to want to share it with you. So, what it is a 3-day weekend. I have created my schedule with a 3-day weekend. And you might be like, well, what are you talking about? How did you do that? How do you take off Fridays? Maybe you want to take off Mondays. I'm just going to share with you what's happened. And then I'm going to go into the weeds with you and explain how my 4-day week works. Okay. So, first thing is, I decided that I really wanted Fridays off. And I don't really know all the, behind why this was important to me. But now in hindsight, here are some of the things that I've discovered. Number one, as an entrepreneur, one of the reasons why I love being an entrepreneur is so that I can have the freedom in my schedule. Well, if I always feel like I'm chained to my desk or that I must live a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday lifestyle, well, that's not a lot of freedom. So taking Fridays off was almost like a little bit of like an act of rebellion. Like, I can do this. Hello. I do not have to have a 9 to 5 schedule. And there was something really liberating about that. So it started off with me just trying to see, okay, don't schedule anything on Fridays. Let's see what happens. And that's really sort of how this started emerging. But then I realized I started enjoying it. And then it was like, okay, now I have to protect Fridays. And what's that going to look like? So I'm going to walk you through the details. But before I do, let me just continue to give you some big picture things. So one of the things that it's brought about is we're in the empty nest stage and we live in a new place and there's lots of adventures all around us. We live on a lake and so there's, kayaking, hiking, all kinds of things all around us. 2-hour drives we can do in any direction and experience fun new things. And so having that Friday off just was like, ooh, this is fun. I'm not working on Friday. What can we do? So here's another major thing that happens. So when you take Friday off, suddenly Friday sort of feels like Saturday. And then Saturday sort of feels like Sunday. And then on Sunday, it's like, oh my gosh, it's Sunday, bonus day. And we go to church, and then there's just this bonus time, right? Because I sort of already had the Friday and Saturday, if you will. And so what happens then is I start Monday fresh and ready. I don't start Monday anymore with like, oh, I just didn't have enough time over the weekend. I just didn't get enough rest and I just didn't get enough downtime. So I was going into Monday kind of heavy again. Now I go into Monday like, whoop, whoop, I'm ready to get back to work. All right. So that's some major bonuses. Another thing is we like taking, long weekends. And so having Friday off is really fun because um, it just makes the weekend a little bit longer if we want to do like weekend getaways. Also, when I make my appointments, so if there's a hair appointment or a nail appointment, or what are the things you like to do? You know, your appointments, I like to do those on Fridays so that they feel like fun day versus having to smush them in somewhere and like in the evenings or making it feel like stressful. All right. So it's not pushed anymore. I've got space. I've got space. And I love that. So I just feel it's my life feels more fun, feels like there's more space for adventure, more space for spontaneity, more space for, "Ooh, what can we do today? Let's go on an adventure. Let's go experience something new." Now, so what does the rest of my week look like? How do you do that, Gail? How do you really take an entire day, quote unquote work day, right? And then, so I will tell you that because I want that Friday so bad, I am much more productive and efficient Monday through Thursday because I know if I'm not, then I'm going to have to overflow things to Friday. And I do not want that to happen. And honestly, it doesn't happen very often. There are times when I will need to do something on a Friday. However, let me share with you how I do that. So most of you know I'm a coach, and I'm going to walk you through my Monday through Thursday and talk about that because I do use it strategically. But let's just pretend that I need to have a conversation with somebody or some kind of like coaching on Fridays. Well, if I've opened up my schedule for that, what I do is I don't make it a Zoom. I typically will not make it a Zoom call. Why? Because that feels like work. So I make it a phone call so I can be out on the back, sitting in the sun, or I can be driving to a coffee shop or parked in a parking lot about to walk into a coffee shop, or it just feels like it's more spontaneous and I can still be doing what I want to be doing. I'm just plopping this in the middle of things. So that's how I look at things that I have to add into my Friday, should I do it. And if there's some real bigger things that I absolutely, the week has just gotten away from me, or a big project I'm working on, or there's a deadline, I will do those early on Friday morning so that at the very worst case scenario, by noon, I'm done. I really even like it to be like 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm done. If I had something that carried over to Friday and I had to do it, but by noon, that's a hard pass. That's a hard deadline, on Fridays. Now, well, what about Monday through Thursday? So what I do, now you can rearrange this, however works for you. And obviously, guys, I'm talking to someone about this schedule who's an entrepreneur. You don't have a 9 to 5. You get to create the schedule of your dreams. So that's really a very foundational piece here is believing that God gave you the gift of entrepreneurship so that you could really create a life that you actually love. And if your business is becoming a life that you don't love, whoa, pull back and do some rearranging. So I talk to my clients a lot about this because we are in charge of the life that we love and creating it. We are made in his image. We were made to create. We are very creative beings. And so you have the power to create the life and schedule that you love. So believe that and implement things into your business. So what I'm hoping for today is just by sharing with you what I've done, you can use these principles, but create your own schedule. So, what I do on Mondays is another day. I work on Mondays, but I don't schedule things on Mondays, meaning I don't schedule coaching calls. I don't have group calls or individual calls, unless, again, there's something out of the ordinary because I want to be working on my business on Mondays, not in my business. So what that means is when Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are very task oriented, they're people oriented. I'm doing group coaching, I'm doing individual coaching, I'm doing social media tasks, I'm doing strategy things. Right? I'm really working in the business. But on Mondays, I'm pulling back and I'm looking from a higher level. Okay, what's going on in the business? Are new leads coming in? Are they being nurtured? Look at that customer journey. What's the next thing? What is the um, calendar for the month and the next 90 days and then to the end of the year? Is there anything I need to rearrange? How are things looking? Where do I need some support? What's going on? So big picture things, looking at the dashboard of taking inventory, right? What's happening, what's working, what's not working, what do I need to change? And then what are the priorities for the week? So that then I look at the calendar and like, okay, now Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're going to be productive days for a few reasons. Why? Because I have the energy from my 3-day weekend. All right. And I've used Monday to get refocused and get clear on what's going on rather than just throwing myself back into the week and back into task mode because it's so easy to just start getting on that hamster wheel of doing and being busy, but realizing you're actually not building anything. Nothing's actually changing. There aren't more leads coming in, more leads aren't joining, more things aren't moving forward, right? So, where's the problem? Because it's normal to have cogs in the wheel and it's normal to have to pivot and make adjustments, but we've got to pull back and get help sometimes. They say you can't read the label when you're inside the jar. So being able to reach out and say, look, I need some support, an accountability partner, a coach, a mastermind group. Where are those places that you get insight into what's going on? So that's how I set up my week. And it is working and I love it. And I was on a walk this morning and I thought, you know what? I'm going to share about my 3-day week. Now, there's a couple things for those of you who work with me. I do, even though I'm telling you I have a 3-day weekend, and I still believe I do have a 3-day weekend, I do a coaching call on Saturday mornings at 8 a.m. Well, you might be like, well, Gail, you just got to telling us that you have a 3-day weekend. How can you have a 3-day weekend when you do a coaching call on Saturday mornings? Because wherever I am, I can do a coaching call from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern. And I have found that that is an awesome time for the majority, a very high percentage of my clients do not have a conflict with 8 a.m. Eastern on Saturday mornings. And I have clients who show up at 5 o'clock in the morning, their time, 6 o'clock in the morning, their time, because they won't miss that group call. And I won't miss it. It doesn't matter where I am. I take my laptop and I'll say to my husband, I've got my 8 o'clock call, and I'll go do my 8 o'clock call. And he has his little morning coffee and time, and then we're off for the rest of our adventure. Um, so I love that I can do that on Saturday mornings. It's very high percentage of show up rates for everybody. It makes it having a coaching community and a mastermind community, you want people to be there and they want to be there. So having it at a time that really is a highly likely that everyone's going to be able to attend. So it works. It still allows me to have my 3-day weekend doing that call. I love that call on Saturday mornings. It's a joy for me. It's not even really work, but I still hold it and hold that space. Now, a couple other things. Evenings, okay? So I don't know about you, and all of us are different, right? But evening times are really important in my home because they always have been. It's really the time to reconnect, be back together, spend time together, whether it's eating, watching, it really doesn't matter what we're doing. We're just doing it together. And when I find that was in an old habit of like working into the night, it didn't work. And it almost felt like, um, and my husband would never ever say this, but it just felt a little like hello, thought you'd be like being done with the day so we could have our time. And he doesn't say it, but I feel it, right? And so I wanted to guard that. So it is very rare that I don't leave this desk by 5 o'clock. And if I do have to work for anything, it might even be something, not even a work related thing. It might just be an evening call or something that I've scheduled. Um, like for example, it might be a health call for me or a coaching call or something. So if I'm even doing any of those things, I will make sure I have space in the middle of my day where I am upstairs, and I'm connecting and doing things. And then I'm always saying, hey, and FYI, I've got my such and such tonight. We don't share a Google Calendar, which by the way, it's not a bad idea. But I'm always just letting him know he is a priority because if I get that out of alignment, ooh, it didn't go well. Meaning I get stressed, the relationship gets stressed. That means my business is going to get stressed and all the way through. So, evenings for me are rare that I schedule things. When I do, they're very intentional. And I used to struggle with that because I do live events every month. And I used to think, gosh, shouldn't I be doing this in the evening? But the truth is, probably 90% of the women who work with me don't work 9 to 5. And so, trying to force something into the evening really isn't necessary, from what I found from the women that I serve. So I hope this has been a blessing for you. My biggest heart prayer for you is that you would believe with your entire being that you have the ability to create the schedule that is gives you the most energy, gives you the most creativity. And one last thing I'll tell you that has become very, very fruitful is I used to in my day back to back to back to back. And you might think, well, if I'm going to take off Fridays or any day during the week, if I'm going to take a day, that means I'm going to have to pack everything in. And I'm here to tell you that that is absolutely not my experience. My experience is what's happened is, especially because of the Friday off, making space, and then having that Monday where I get clarity on what's most important. What's happened for me is I'm now more efficient and effective at what I'm doing because I have more clarity about what's most important, what's not working, and what most needs my attention, what clients most need my attention, what part of my business most needs my attention. So now I'm working on the things that really matter. Now, wait for this. I do not, I literally will almost always, there are exceptions, but almost always, I will have at least 30 minutes in between one activity at the next. Okay. Like I'm wrapping this up right now, and my next activity is in a half an hour. So why I tell you that is because that space that I make has become very, very fruitful. Sometimes I'll walk outside, I'll sit in the sun for a little bit. Even if I have to do something on social media, I'll go do it outside just to get some sunlight and some fresh air and just to enjoy that life that we get to live, right? So when I don't do that, the pressure of the back to back to back to back to back, I get less efficient, I get less effective, I get more irritable and more frustrated, and I get less clear on what I actually need to be working on. And I get back on the hamster wheel. And so by making the space, you would think that I actually am getting less done, which is actually the exact opposite. I'm getting more of the more important things done. So, because I also have the space and energy, because I'm creating it to be able to say, okay, I'm going to work on this project. All right. So I pray this was a blessing. I can't wait to hear your comments and your feedback. If you are not with us in Kingdom Dream Chasers, get on over in that group. We've got so many good things happening in there. And every day there's a new, very important focused topic regarding your business. And so we want it to bless you. And yes, connect with us over there. Make sure you come to our live events, and they will bless you as well. All right, guys, have a wonderful day.